Captain Lisa Carter pressed her face against the cold metal wall of her ship. The lights flickered above her head. Red warning signals flashed everywhere. The ship shook as another blast hit the hull. She knew they were going to die today. The research vessel Harmony's Edge had been exploring the far reaches of space for 3 months. Lisa and her crew of 37 scientists were studying new planets and looking for signs of life. They had found more than they bargained for. The Vorthic Empire had found them first. Dr. Kevin Brooks ran down the hallway toward the bridge. His white coat was torn and dirty. Blood ran down his face from a cut on his forehead. He clutched a datapad in his hands like his life depended on it. Maybe it did. "Captain," Kevin shouted as he reached the bridge. "I got the data. Everything we learned about their weapons. They're biological weapons that kill entire planets." Lisa looked at the screens around her. 12 massive alien ships surrounded her small research vessel. Each one was 10 times bigger than her ship. The Vorthic ships were dark and ugly, covered in spikes and weapons. They looked like they were made for war and nothing else. "How long before they board us?" Lisa asked her security officer. 5 minutes, maybe less," Officer Danny Price replied. His hand shook as he held his weapon. "They blasted through our shields like paper. Our weapons can't even scratch their ships." Lisa had read about the Vorthic in the intelligence reports. They were ace of warriors who conquered planets for fun. They had destroyed 17 star systems in the past month. Not conquered, destroyed. Every living thing on those planets was dead. Now, the Vorthic used biological weapons that could kill all life on a planet in just a few hours. They would drop these weapons from space and watch as everything died. Plants, animals, bacteria, everything. Then they would move on to the next planet and do it again. Kevin worked frantically at his computer station. "I'm sending out a distress signal on all frequencies. Maybe someone will hear it. Maybe someone will stop them." "The Galactic Council already wrote us off," Lisa said sadly. "They think we're already dead. The nearest human colony is months away." The ship shook again. This time, the lights went out completely. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in red light. Lisa could hear the sound of metal being cut. The Vorthic were boarding them. "Get to the core section," Lisa ordered. "Seal all the doors. We make our stand there." The crew ran through the corridors as fast as they could. Behind them, they could hear the sound of the Vorthic breaking through the hull. The aliens made terrible screaming sounds as they moved through the ship. Lisa had seen pictures of the Vorthic before. They were 8 feet tall with gray skin and 4 arms. Their faces looked like skulls with glowing red eyes. They wore black armor that covered their entire bodies. Each one carried weapons that could cut through metal like butter. The crew reached the core section and sealed the heavy doors. Kevin was still working on his computer, trying to send the distress signal. "I got it," he said. "The signal is broadcasting on all frequencies. If anyone is listening, they'll hear it." "What did you send?" Lisa asked. "Everything we learned about their biological weapons. How they work, where they come from, how they're made. If someone can use this information to stop them, maybe our deaths will mean something." The sound of cutting metal came from the door. The Vorthic were trying to break through. Lisa looked at her crew. They were all scared, but they were ready to fight. Most of them were scientists, not soldiers, but they knew what was at stake. "Remember," Lisa said, "we're not just fighting for our lives. We're fighting for every living thing in the galaxy. These monsters want to kill everything. We can't let them." The door began to glow red hot as the Vorthic cut through it. Lisa gripped her weapon tighter. She had never killed anyone before, but she knew she would have to try today. Far away, on the mining station Titan base, Commander Jake Sullivan sat in his office reading reports. The coffee in his cup had gone cold hours ago. He was tired from working a double shift, but something made him look up at his communication screen. A message was coming in on the emergency frequency. Jake frowned and turned up the volume. The voice was faint and full of static, but he could make out the words. "This is Captain Lisa Carter of the research vessel Harmony's Edge. We are under attack by the Vorthic Empire. They have biological weapons that can destroy entire planets. The data is attached to this message. Please, someone has to stop them. They're going to kill everyone." Jake's blood ran cold. He had heard rumors about the Vorthic, but he never thought they would come this far into peaceful space. He grabbed his communication device and called Earth Command immediately. "This is Commander Sullivan on Titan Base. I have an emergency message from a research vessel under attack. The Vorthic Empire is using biological weapons to destroy entire planets. I'm sending you the data now." The voice on the other end was calm but serious. "Understood, Commander. We'll alert the Defense Council immediately." "How old is this message?" Jake looked at the timestamp. 3 hours old, sir. The ship was in the Kepler sector. Then they're probably already dead. But their sacrifice might save billions of lives. We'll make sure their message reaches the right people. Back on the Harmony's Edge, the door finally gave way. The Vorthic poured through the opening like a dark tide. Lisa and her crew fought bravely, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. One by one, they fell. Lisa was the last one standing. A Vorthic warrior, taller than the others, approached her. This one wore more armor and had symbols carved into his face. He was probably their leader. "You are from the planet Earth," the alien said in broken English. "Your species is listed as primitive. You live on a death world that should have killed you long ago." Lisa spat blood from her mouth. "Yeah, well, that death world made us tough. Tough enough to send a message that will bring you down." The Vorthic leader laughed. It sounded like metal scraping against stone. "No one will come to save you. Your message will be ignored, just like your pathetic lives." Lisa smiled as the alien raised his weapon. "You don't know humans very well. We don't abandon our own, and we don't forget." The weapon fired, and Lisa Carter died. But her message was already traveling through space, carrying the information that would change everything. The Vorthic had made their first mistake. They had hurt humans. Now they would learn what that meant. Admiral Kate Morrison stood in the war room deep beneath the Earth's surface. The walls were covered with screens showing star maps and enemy positions. Red dots marked where the Vorthic had destroyed entire worlds. There were too many red dots. "Tell me about the Harmony's Edge," Kate said to the intelligence officer. 37 crew members, all dead," the officer replied. "But they got us something valuable. Complete data on Vorthic biological weapons. We know how they work now." Kate studied the data on her tablet. The Vorthic weapons were designed to kill soft, weak life forms. Most alien species lived on comfortable worlds with mild weather and few dangers. The biological weapons attacked their immune systems, which had never faced serious threats. "What about Earth's classification?" Kate asked. "Still listed as Class 12 Death World, ma'am. The Galactic Council considers it barely suitable for life. Most aliens would die within hours of landing on our planet." Kate almost smiled. The galaxy saw Earth as a nightmare world. Hurricanes that could level cities, earthquakes that could split continents, volcanoes that could block out the sun, diseases that could kill millions, predators that hunted in packs, extreme temperatures that could freeze or cook living things. But humans had survived it all. More than survived. They had thrived. Every human alive was the product of millions of years of evolution on a world that tried to kill them every single day. "Assemble the fleet," Kate ordered. All of it. Every ship, every crew member, every Marine. The Vorthik just declared war on humanity. The message went out across the solar system. From the ice mines of Europa to the fire forges of Mercury, humans received the call. They came from Mars, where they had learned to live in a toxic atmosphere. They came from the asteroid belt, where they had learned to work in the vacuum of space. They came from the outer planets, where they had learned to survive in the endless cold. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Bell stood on the deck of the U.E.'s Vengeance, watching as ship after ship joined the fleet. Ryan had grown up in the Australian outback, where the sun could kill you and every animal was venomous. He had learned to hunt crocodiles with his bare hands and walk through deserts that would cook most aliens alive. "How many ships do we have?" Ryan asked his aide. 47 warships, sir, plus support vessels. "The biggest fleet Earth has ever assembled," Ryan nodded. Each ship was crewed by humans who had been forged in Earth's crucible. The captain of the destroyer Lightning was from Alaska, where she had learned to survive in temperatures that would instantly freeze most alien blood. The commander of the cruiser Thunder was from the Amazon rainforest, where he had developed immunity to diseases that would kill entire alien populations. "What's our destination?" Ryan asked. "The Kepler sector. Intelligence says the Vorthik are preparing to attack the Zelani homeworld. 3 billion innocent people are about to die unless we stop them." Ryan had read about the Zelani. They were peaceful plant eaters who lived on a world with perfect weather and no dangerous animals. They had never fought a war in their entire history. Their immune systems were so weak that a common human cold would kill them. "How long do we have?" 72 hours, sir. Maybe less." The human fleet jumped into hyperspace, moving faster than any alien fleet had ever traveled. Human ships were built different from alien vessels. Where aliens built for comfort, humans built for survival. Where aliens used automated systems, humans used manual controls. Where aliens feared danger, humans embraced it. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Admiral Morrison reviewed the intelligence reports. The Vorthik had developed their biological weapons over centuries of conquest. They had tested them on dozens of species, perfecting them to kill any form of life they encountered, but they had never encountered humans. "Ma'am," the communication officer called out, "we're getting a transmission from the Galactic Council." The main screen flickered to life, showing a council chamber filled with representatives from dozens of alien species. They all looked terrified. The council leader, a tall blue alien with multiple eyes, spoke in a shaking voice. "Admiral Morrison, we cannot ask you to sacrifice your fleet. The Vorthik are too powerful. They have already destroyed 17 star systems. Perhaps we should evacuate the Zelani homeworld and retreat to the core systems." Kate looked at the screen with disgust. "You want to run away and let them kill more innocent people? We must be practical. The Vorthik have weapons that can kill entire planets. What can one species do against such power?" "We can fight," Kate said simply. "We've been fighting our whole lives. Our planet tried to kill us every day, and we're still here. We learned to adapt, to survive, to win against impossible odds." Another council member, a small gray alien with big eyes, spoke up. "But Admiral, Earth is classified as a death world. Your species evolved in conditions that would kill most galactic citizens. You cannot expect us to understand your ways." "I don't expect you to understand," Kate replied. "I expect you to get out of our way." The transmission ended. Kate turned to her crew. "Set course for the Kepler sector. Maximum speed." The human fleet raced through space toward their destination. In the ship's medical bay, Dr. Amy Rodriguez was preparing for battle. She had grown up in the mountains of Peru, where the thin air would suffocate most aliens. She had developed treatments for altitude sickness, radiation poisoning, and exposure to toxic chemicals. "Doctor," her assistant asked, "what if the Vorthik use their biological weapons on us?" Amy smiled grimly. "Then they'll learn why Earth is called a death world. We've survived plagues, viruses, bacteria, and parasites that would wipe out entire alien civilizations. Our immune systems are weapons of war." In the ship's armory, Sergeant Mike Johnson was checking weapons with his Marines. Mike had been born in the swamps of Louisiana, where he had learned to fight alligators and survive in water that would poison most alien species. His Marines came from every hostile environment on Earth. "Remember," Mike told his troops, "these aliens have never fought anyone like us. They think we're primitive because we come from a dangerous world. Let's show them what that dangerous world taught us." The fleet was now halfway to the Kepler sector. On the bridge, Admiral Morrison received another message. This one was from the Vorthik Empire itself. The screen showed a massive alien in black armor. His face was like a skull with glowing red eyes. 4 arms moved as he spoke, each one ending in claws that could tear through metal. "I am War Admiral Vexkol of the Vorthik Empire. You approach our hunting ground. Turn back now or join the countless species we have already exterminated." Kate looked at the alien commander with no fear in her eyes. "This is Admiral Morrison of the United Earth Defense Force. You killed our people. You threatened innocent civilians. We're coming to stop you." Vexkol laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "You are from the primitive world called Earth. Your species is listed as barely evolved. You live on a world that should have killed you. You are no threat to the mighty Vorthik Empire. You're about to learn something about evolution." Kate said, "It's not the strongest or the smartest that survive. It's the ones who adapt best to change, and change is coming." The transmission ended. Kate turned to her crew. "Battle stations. We're going to show these aliens what humans can do when someone threatens our family." The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler sector. Before them lay the Vorthik War fleet, dark and menacing against the stars. The enemy ships were massive, covered in weapons and armor. They looked like they could destroy anything in their path, but they had never faced Deathworlders before. "Paul's ships," Kate broadcast to the fleet. "Remember who we are. Remember where we come from. Remember what they did to our people. Let's show them why Earth is called a death world." The human fleet moved forward, ready for battle. Behind them, the galaxy held its breath. The Deathworlders were about to show the universe what they were made of. War Admiral Vexkol stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Bone Crusher. Through the massive viewing window, he could see the green and blue planet below. The Zilani homeworld was beautiful and peaceful, covered in forests and oceans. Soon, it would be gray and dead like all the others. "Status report," Vexkol commanded his weapons officer. "All biological weapons are loaded and ready, War Admiral. The planet killer missiles are armed. We can begin the extermination in 1 hour." Vexkol nodded with satisfaction. The Zilani were a weak species of plant-eaters who had never fought a war. They had no weapons, no armies, no defenses. Their planet would be easy to sterilize. Another trophy for the Vorthik Empire. "War Admiral," the sensor officer called out. "We have ships approaching. Human vessels from the planet Earth." Vexkol looked at the tactical display. 47. Human ships were moving toward his fleet of 60 Vorthik warships. The human vessels were smaller and appeared to be using primitive technology. "Humans," Vexkol said with disgust. "I have read about them. They come from a death world that should have killed them long ago. They are primitive and weak. Their ships are no match for Vorthik power." The communications officer spoke up. "War Admiral, the human admiral is requesting to speak with you." "Put her through. Let me tell these primitives how they will die." The main screen flickered to life, showing Admiral Kate Morrison on the bridge of her ship. She looked calm and determined, showing no fear of the massive Vorthic fleet. "War Admiral Vex Cole," Kate said, "I'm giving you one chance to surrender. Leave this system now and face trial for your crimes. Refuse, and we will destroy you." Vex Cole laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "You dare threaten the Vorthic Empire? Your tiny fleet is outnumbered and outgunned. Your primitive weapons cannot pierce our armor. Surrender now, and I will make your deaths quick." "We don't surrender," Kate replied, "and we don't run. You killed our people. Now you pay the price." The transmission ended. Vexcol turned to his fleet commanders. "Destroy the human ships. Show them the power of the Vorthic Empire." The Vorthic fleet moved forward, their massive ships bristling with weapons. Each vessel was a kilometer long and covered in armor that could stop any known weapon. They had conquered hundreds of worlds with these ships, but the humans did not retreat. Instead, they did something that surprised the Vorthic. They scattered in all directions, using tactics that no alien species had ever tried before. Captain Amy Rodriguez piloted her fighter squadron through the Vorthic formation. She had grown up in the mountains of Mexico, where she had learned to fly through storms that would destroy most aircraft. The turbulence that would kill alien pilots was nothing to her. "Eagle Squadron, follow my lead," Amy broadcast to her pilots. "Use the debris field from the asteroid belt. They can't track you as if we stay in their sensor shadows." The human fighters moved like schools of fish, darting between the massive Vorthic ships. They struck at weak points in the armor, then disappeared before the aliens could respond. This was not how space battles were supposed to work. On the bone. Crusher, Vexcol watched in confusion as his ships took damage from the tiny human fighters. "How are they doing this? Our sensors cannot lock onto them." "They are using unconventional tactics, War Admiral. They hide in our sensor shadows and strike from unexpected angles. This is not how civilized species fight." "Then we will show them how warriors fight," Vexcol snarled. "Launch the boarding pods. We will take their ships and kill them hand to hand." Hundreds of Vorthic boarding pods shot out from the fleet, heading for the human ships. Each pod contained 10 heavily armed warriors ready to tear apart any opposition. The Vorthic had never lost a boarding action. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Bell watched the boarding pods approach his ship. He stood in the airlock with his team of Marines, all of them wearing environmental suits that could protect them from Earth's most hostile conditions. "Remember your training," Ryan told his team. "These aliens have never faced anyone like us. They think we're weak because we come from a dangerous world. Let's show them what that dangerous world taught us." The boarding pods smashed into the human ships. Vorthic warriors poured out, expecting to face terrified crews who would surrender quickly. Instead, they found humans who had been forged in the fires of a death world. Sergeant Mike Johnson met the first wave of boarders in the ship's corridor. He had grown up in the swamps of Louisiana, where he had learned to fight creatures that would eat most aliens alive. The Vorthic warriors were big and strong, but they had never faced an enemy who refused to give up. Mike's shotgun roared, sending Vorthic warriors flying. His Marines fought with a fury that shocked the aliens. These humans did not retreat when wounded. They did not surrender when outnumbered. They fought like the predators they were. "These humans are insane," one Vorthic warrior screamed into his communicator. "They fight with no regard for their own safety. They use weapons that should not work in space. They are like demons." On the bridge of the Bone Crusher, Vexcol listened to the reports from his boarding parties. More than half of them were already dead or missing. The humans were not just defeating them. They were hunting them through their own ships. "War Admiral," the tactical officer reported. The human ships are moving into attack formation. They are targeting our weapon systems. Vexcol looked at the display screen. The human fleet was moving in a pattern he had never seen before. They were not fighting like a traditional space navy. They were fighting like a pack of wolves, coordinating their attacks to bring down larger prey. The human ships struck at the shield. Vorthic fleet with precision and fury. They targeted engines, weapon systems, and life support. They used their smaller size and speed to avoid the massive Vorthic guns while delivering devastating attacks at close range. Dr. Amy Rodriguez was leading a boarding party onto a Vorthic cruiser. She had grown up in the Amazon rainforest, where she had developed immunity to diseases and toxins that would kill most alien species. The Vorthic ship's atmosphere was toxic to most life forms, but Amy breathed it like normal air. The environmental systems are down, her team leader reported. The atmosphere is poisonous. Not to us, Amy replied, removing her helmet. We evolved on a world that tried to poison us every day. This is nothing. The human boarding parties moved through the Vorthic ships like ghosts. They could survive in conditions that would kill the ship's own crew. They used weapons designed to stop Earth's most dangerous predators. They fought with the desperation of a species that had learned to survive against impossible odds. On the planet below, the Zelani watched the battle through their telescopes. They had never seen anything like it. The humans were outnumbered 2-1, but they were winning. Their ships moved like living things, striking and retreating with perfect coordination. How are they doing this? The Zelani planetary leader asked his advisors. The humans are from a primitive world. How can they defeat the mighty Vorthic? Perhaps, one advisor suggested, being from a primitive world is what makes them strong. They have learned to fight for survival every day of their lives. The battle raged for 3 hours. One by one, the Vorthic ships were destroyed or crippled. The aliens' superior technology meant nothing against human tactics and determination. The Vorthic had weapons that could destroy planets, but they had never faced an enemy that refused to die. War Admiral Vexcol watched as his fleet was torn apart. His massive ships, which had conquered countless worlds, were falling to these primitive humans. It was impossible, but it was happening. War Admiral, his communications officer called out. The human admiral is requesting to speak with you again. The screen showed Admiral Morrison, but she was no longer on her bridge. She was standing in the corridors of the Bone Crusher, surrounded by her Marines. Somehow, the humans had boarded his flagship. How? Vexcol asked in shock. We're very good at surviving in hostile environments, Kate replied. Your ship's defenses were designed to stop civilized species. We're not civilized. We're Deathworlders. Vexcol reached for his weapon, but Ryan Bell's rifle was already pointed at his head. The human Marine had moved with a speed that no alien could match. You killed our people, Ryan said quietly. You threatened innocent civilians. You made the biggest mistake of your lives. You made humans angry. Vexcol looked around at his bridge crew. They were all dead or wounded. The humans had taken his flagship without losing a single person. It was the end of everything he had believed about Vorthic's superiority. This is impossible, he whispered. You are primitives. You should not be able to defeat us? You're right, Kate said. We are primitives. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day. But that world made us into something you could never understand. We're survivors. And now we're your worst nightmare. The last message from the Bone Crusher was transmitted to the Vorthic High Command on their home world. Vexcol's final words were a warning that would change the course of galactic history. The humans are coming. They are not like other species. They cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be stopped. They are death itself, walking among the stars. The Transmission ended as the bone crusher exploded. The human fleet had won their first battle against the Vorthic Empire. But this was just the beginning. The Deathworlders were coming, and they would not stop until every last Vorthic was dead or surrendered. The news of the human victory traveled through the galaxy faster than light. On every civilized world, beings who had given up hope suddenly found themselves believing again. The mighty Vorthic Empire, which had seemed unstoppable, had been defeated by a species most aliens had never heard of. Captain Lisa Carter sat in the medical bay of the human rescue ship. She was one of only 3 survivors from the Harmonies. Edge, the doctors had worked for days to save her life, but she was alive. She was alive to see the galaxy fighting back. "Captain," Dr. Amy Rodriguez said as she checked Lisa's wounds, "the Galactic Council wants to speak with you. They want to know everything about the Vorthic biological weapons." Lisa nodded weakly. "I'll tell them everything. But first, I need to know about my crew. Kevin, Danny, the others who died. Did their sacrifice mean something?" "It meant everything," Amy replied. "The data you sent saved billions of lives. The Vorthic weapons are designed to kill soft, comfortable life forms. They wouldn't work on humans. We evolved resistance to diseases and toxins that would wipe out most alien species." On Earth, Admiral Kate Morrison stood before the United Earth Defense Council. The room was filled with military leaders from every human colony. They had come to plan the next phase of the war. "The Vorthic have declared total war on all organic life," Kate announced. "Intelligence reports that they're building new biological weapons. If they can't conquer the galaxy, they plan to sterilize it completely." General Bob Martinez, commander of the Mars Defense Force, spoke up. "How many ships do we have available?" "Every colony is contributing," Kate replied. "Mars is sending 20 ships designed to operate in radiation fields. Europa is providing deep space vessels that can withstand crushing pressure. The asteroid belt colonies are sending mining ships converted for war." Colonel Danny Turner stepped forward. He was a tall man with scars on his face from years of fighting on hostile worlds. "What about ground forces? If we're going to hunt down these biological weapons, we'll need boots on the ground. That's why I'm creating the Human Expeditionary Force," Kate announced. "You'll lead it, Colonel. Your mission is to find and destroy every Vorthic biological weapon before they can be used." Danny nodded. He had grown up on Titan, Saturn's largest moon, where the atmosphere was poisonous and the surface was covered in liquid methane. He had learned to survive in conditions that would kill most humans, let alone aliens. "What kind of soldiers will I have?" Danny asked. "The best Earth has to offer," Kate replied. "Arctic survival experts who can operate in temperatures that would freeze alien blood. Deep-sea divers who can work under pressure that would crush most species. Volcano researchers who can survive in toxic gases. Storm chasers who can navigate through conditions that would blind alien sensors." The meeting continued for hours, planning the largest military operation in human history. Every available ship, every trained soldier, every piece of technology would be used to hunt down the Vorthic Empire. Meanwhile, on the Vorthic home world, Emperor Kethfor the Destroyer raged in his throne room. The massive alien leader was 12 feet tall, with 6 arms and skin like black stone. His red eyes glowed with fury as he read the reports from the Kepler sector. "How is this possible?" Kethfor screamed at his advisors. Vexgol commanded 60 ships. He had the finest warriors in the Empire. How could he be defeated by primitive humans? War Admiral Zextol, the Emperor's chief military advisor, cowered before his leader's anger. "The humans fight differently than other species. My lord, they use tactics we have never seen. They can survive in conditions that would kill our warriors. They come from a death world," Kethfor snarled. Their planet should have killed them long ago. Instead, it made them strong. This is unacceptable. What are your orders, my lord? Zextal asked. Begin total sterilization protocols. If we cannot conquer the galaxy, we will cleanse it of all life. Every world, every species, everything must die. The universe will be silent and empty, ruled only by the Vorthik. The Emperor's orders went out to every Vorthik fleet in the galaxy. They would no longer try to conquer worlds. They would simply kill everything and move on. It was a decision that would doom billions of innocent beings. But the humans were already moving to stop them. Colonel Turner's expeditionary force landed on the dead world of Keptara Prime, where the Vorthik had tested their first biological weapons. The planet had once been home to 2 billion peaceful farmers. Now it was a gray wasteland covered in toxic dust. Spread out, Turner ordered his soldiers. Look for any trace of the biological weapons. We need to understand how they work so we can stop them. Sergeant Lisa Murphy led her squad through the ruins of what had once been a great city. She had grown up in the mountains of Colorado, where she had learned to survive avalanches, freezing temperatures, and thin air that would suffocate most aliens. Colonel, Lisa reported through her communicator, we found something. Looks like a weapons laboratory underground. The Vorthik left in a hurry. Turner and his team descended into the underground facility. The walls were covered in symbols that hurt to look at. The air was thick with toxic gases that would kill most life forms. But the human soldiers wore environmental suits designed to protect them from Earth's most hostile conditions. My God, breathed Dr. Karen White, the expedition's chief scientist. She had grown up in the Australian desert, where she had learned to survive heat that would cook most alien species. Look at this equipment. They were creating weapons specifically designed to kill different types of life forms. The laboratory contained hundreds of biological weapons, each one designed to target a specific species. The Vorthik had been planning galactic genocide for decades, perfecting their weapons to kill every form of life they encountered. How many species have they wiped out? Turner asked. According to these records, 43 different species, Karen replied. Entire civilizations gone forever. And they were just getting started. Turner felt sick. The Vorthik weren't just conquerors. They were exterminators, killing for the pleasure of watching things die. But they had made one fatal mistake. They had threatened humanity. Upload everything. To the fleet, Turner ordered. Every piece of data, every weapon design, every target list. Command needs to know what we're dealing with. Back on Earth, Admiral Morrison received the data from Keptara Prime. The scope of the Vorthik's crimes was worse than anyone had imagined. They had been planning to kill every living thing in the galaxy. Ma'am, her aide reported, we're getting reports from across the galaxy. The Vorthik are accelerating their timetable. They're attacking multiple worlds simultaneously. Kate looked at the tactical display. Red dots were appearing faster than she could count. The Vorthik were trying to destroy as much as possible before the humans could stop them. Order all fleets. To maximum speed, Kate commanded. We're going to hunt down every Vorthik ship, every biological weapon, every trace of their empire. This ends now. The human fleet divided into hunting groups, each one tasked with stopping the Vorthik in different sectors of the galaxy. They moved with a speed and determination that shocked alien observers. These were not soldiers fighting for conquest. These were predators hunting the enemies of their pack. Captain Ryan Bell led a strike force to the Andromeda sector, where the Vorthik were preparing to sterilize 12 worlds. His ships moved through space like sharks through water, silent and deadly. Contact, his sensor officer reported. Vorthik fleet detected. 20 ships preparing to deploy biological weapons. All ships, attack pattern Delta, Ryan ordered. Remember, we're not just fighting for humanity. We're fighting for every living thing in the galaxy. The human ships struck the Vorthic fleet with surgical precision. They had learned from there. Victory at Kepler. How to fight the alien empire. They used speed, stealth, and tactics that no civilized species would ever try. The battle was swift and brutal. The Vorthic ships, designed to fight other conventional fleets, could not adapt to. Human tactics. One by one, the alien vessels were destroyed or crippled. The biological weapons they carried were captured before they could be used. Sector secure, Ryan reported to Fleet Command. 12 worlds saved. No human casualties. Similar reports came in from across the galaxy. Human forces were striking at Vorthic fleets with deadly efficiency. The aliens who had seemed unstoppable were being hunted down like animals, but the humans paid a price for their victories. Each battle taught them more about the Vorthic's crimes. They found worlds where entire species had been wiped out in hours. They found research stations where aliens had been used as test subjects for biological weapons. They found evidence of genocide on a scale that sickened even hardened soldiers. Sergeant Mike Johnson stood in the ruins of a Vorthic research facility on the planet Xerion. The aliens had been using captured civilians from dozens of species to test their weapons. The facility contained thousands of bodies, all of them victims of Vorthic experiments. How could they do this? Asked Private Jenny Adams, a young Marine from the farms of Kansas. She had grown up around animals and plants, learning to protect life rather than destroy it. Because they're not like us, Mike replied grimly. They don't see other species as living beings. They see them as things to be used and thrown away. The human forces moved deeper into Vorthic territory, following the trail of destruction back toward the Empire's home worlds. They liberated prison camps where captured aliens were being held for experimentation. They destroyed weapons factories where biological agents were being produced. They rescued the survivors of worlds that had been partially sterilized, Dr. Amy. Rodriguez worked around the clock to treat the victims of Vorthic biological weapons. Many of them were beyond help, their bodies destroyed by toxins designed to cause maximum suffering. But some could be saved, and Amy fought for every life. Doctor, her assistant called out, we have incoming casualties from the Proxima raid. Looks like the Vorthic used a new type of weapon. Amy looked at the wounded aliens being brought into her medical facility. They were from the Centauri system, a peaceful race of traders who had never hurt anyone. The Vorthic had attacked them just because they were alive. Set up the clean rooms, Amy ordered, and get me samples of whatever they were exposed to. We need to develop treatments fast. The war against the Vorthic was becoming personal for every human involved. They were not just fighting for victory, they were fighting for justice. They were fighting for the innocent beings who could not protect themselves. Colonel Turner's expeditionary force had traced the source of the biological weapons to a hidden facility in the Vorthic border systems. The facility was heavily defended, but Turner's soldiers had learned to overcome any obstacle. Remember, Turner told his troops as they prepared for the assault, this facility has produced weapons that killed billions of innocent beings. We're not just soldiers today, we're executioners. The human assault on the weapons facility was swift and merciless. They used every trick they had learned from surviving on Earth. They moved through toxic atmospheres like they were breathing normal air. They fought in temperatures that would kill most aliens. They used weapons designed to stop Earth's most dangerous predators. The Vorthic defenders fought desperately, but they were no match for humans who had been forged in the fires of a death world. The facility fell within hours, and with it, the Empire's ability to produce new biological weapons. Colonel, reported Sergeant Lisa Murphy as she secured the facility's central laboratory. We found the weapon designs. Everything they've ever created, plus plans for new ones they never got to build. Turner looked at the data with disgust. The Vorthik had been planning to kill every form of life in the galaxy, then spread to other galaxies to continue their campaign of extinction. They were not just conquerors. They were destroyers of life itself. Burn it all, Turner ordered. Every weapon, every design, every piece of equipment. Make sure this can never be used again. As the facility burned, Turner sent a message to Admiral Morrison. Ma'am, we've destroyed their main weapons facility, but there are still Vorthik fleets out there with biological weapons. We need to find them before they can use them. Understood, Colonel, Morrison replied. Intelligence has located the Vorthik home system. We're preparing for the final assault. It's time to end this war. The human fleet began to assemble for the largest battle in galactic history. Ships came from every human colony, carrying soldiers, who had trained their entire lives to fight in the most hostile conditions imaginable. They were ready to face the Vorthik Empire on its own ground, but the Vorthik were not finished. Emperor Kethver had one last card to play. If he could not rule the galaxy, he would make sure that no one else could either. He was preparing a weapon that would destroy all life in the galaxy, including his own people. The final battle was coming, and the fate of all life in the galaxy hung in the balance. The humans had shown that they could defeat the Vorthik in battle, but could they stop them from destroying everything they had fought to protect? The Deathworlders were about to face their greatest challenge. The hunt was almost over, but the hardest fight was still ahead. The Vorthik home system was a nightmare of twisted metal and poisonous gases. 3 dead worlds orbited a dying star, their surfaces covered in the industrial waste of 1,000 years of war. The largest planet, Vorthik Prime, was where Emperor Kethfor the Destroyer ruled his crumbling empire. Admiral Kate Morrison stood on the bridge of the UE's Vengeance, looking at the tactical display. The human fleet had assembled here for the final battle. 120 ships from every human colony, carrying the best soldiers Earth had ever produced. Status report, Kate ordered. All ships ready for battle, Admiral, her aide reported. The Vorthik home fleet is defending the planet. 80 ships, including their super dreadnought, the World Killer. Kate nodded. The World Killer was a massive ship, 5 kilometers long and covered in weapons that could destroy planets. It was the pride of the Vorthik fleet, and it had never been defeated in battle. What about the planet's defenses? Kate asked. Orbital weapons platforms, missile batteries, and something else, the aide replied. Our sensors are picking up massive energy readings from the planet's core. It might be some kind of weapon. Kate felt a chill run down her spine. The Vorthik were desperate now, and desperate enemies were the most dangerous. She opened a communication channel to the entire fleet. This is Admiral Morrison to all ships. Today, we end the Vorthik Empire forever. They have killed billions of innocent beings. They have threatened to destroy all life in the galaxy. We are here to make sure they never hurt anyone again. The human fleet moved forward, approaching the Vorthik home system with grim determination. They had come a long way from the desperate survivors of the Harmony's Edge. They had become the galaxy's protectors, the ones who stood between civilization and chaos. On Vorthik Prime, Emperor Kethfor the Destroyer stood in his throne room, watching the human fleet approach. The massive alien ruler was 12 feet tall, with 6 arms and skin like black stone. His red eyes glowed with hatred as he watched the primitive humans dare to attack his home world. My lord, War Admiral Zextal reported, the humans are moving into attack formation. Should we launch the fleet? Not yet, Kethver replied. Let them come closer. I want to see the look in their eyes when they realize what I have prepared for them. The Emperor turned to look at the massive machine that dominated the center of his throne room. It was a weapon unlike anything that had ever been built before. The Galaxy Killer could destroy all life in the galaxy with a single blast, turning every world into a lifeless rock. If I cannot rule the galaxy, Kethver said to himself, then no one will. I will kill everything, including my own people. At least then the universe will be silent. The human fleet engaged the Vorthic defenders in the space around the planet. The battle was fierce, with both sides taking heavy casualties. But the humans had learned how to fight the Vorthic, and they were winning. Captain Ryan Bell led a squadron of fighters through the enemy formation, targeting the World Killer's weapon systems. The massive ship's guns were designed to destroy planets, but they were too slow to track the fast-moving human fighters. Eagle Squadron, target the main cannon, Ryan ordered. We need to disable that ship before it can fire on the planet. The human fighters swarmed around the World Killer like angry wasps. They struck at weak points in the armor, slowly crippling the massive ship. The Vorthic crew fought desperately, but they were no match for human tactics and determination. On the planet's surface, Colonel Danny Turner led the human expeditionary force in a direct assault on the Emperor's fortress. The planet's atmosphere was toxic to most life forms, but the human soldiers wore environmental suits designed to protect them from Earth's most hostile conditions. Remember, Turner told his troops, this is where it all started. This is where they planned the genocide of every living thing in the galaxy. We're not just soldiers today, we're justice. The human assault force moved through the fortress like a tide of destruction. They had learned to fight in conditions that would kill. Most aliens and the Vorthic defenders could not stop them. One by one, the fortress's defenses fell. Sergeant Mike Johnson led his Marines through the lower levels of the fortress, where they found evidence of the Vorthic's crimes. Rooms filled with the preserved bodies of extinct species. Libraries containing the records of destroyed civilizations. Museums dedicated to the art of genocide. How many species did they kill? Asked Private Jenny Adams, her voice shaking with anger. Too many, Mike replied, but they won't kill any more. Not after today. The human forces fought their way through the fortress toward the Emperor's throne room. The Vorthic defenders fought with the desperation of cornered animals, but they were no match for soldiers who had been forged in the fires of a death world. Meanwhile, in space, the battle was turning in humanity's favor. The Vorthic fleet was being destroyed ship by ship, and the World Killer was crippled and helpless. But Admiral Morrison knew that something was wrong. Ma'am, her sensor officer reported, we're detecting massive energy buildup from the planet's core. Whatever they're building down there, it's almost ready to fire. Kate felt her blood run cold. The Vorthic were preparing some kind of last-ditch weapon. She opened a communication channel to Colonel Turner. Colonel, we need you to move faster. The Vorthic are preparing some kind of weapon. You need to stop them before they can use it. Understood, Admiral, Turner replied. We're almost to the throne room. Whatever they're planning, we'll stop it. The human assault force reached the massive doors of the Emperor's throne room. The doors were made of metal that could resist any known weapon, but the humans had come prepared. They used explosives designed to crack the bedrock of Earth's most stable continents. The doors exploded inward, and the human soldiers poured into the throne room. What they found there made them stop in shock. That Emperor Kethvor the Destroyer stood next to a massive machine that pulsed with deadly energy. The Galaxy Killer was almost ready to fire, and when it did, every living thing in the galaxy would die. Welcome, humans, Kethvor said in his voice like grinding stone. You have come just in time to witness the end of everything. In 10 minutes, my weapon will fire, and all life in the galaxy will be extinguished. You may have defeated my empire, but you cannot stop this. Colonel Turner raised his weapon, but Kethvor laughed. You cannot destroy the machine without causing it to explode. And if it explodes, it will still kill everything. You have won. Nothing. Dr. Amy Rodriguez pushed through the crowd of soldiers. She had studied the Vorthic technology for months, learning how their weapons worked. She approached the Galaxy Killer with no fear in her eyes. You made one mistake, Amy said. To the Emperor. You built this weapon to kill soft, weak life forms. But we're not soft or weak. We're from a death world. Amy began working on the machine's control systems, her hands moving with practiced skill. She had grown up in conditions that would kill most aliens, and she had learned to adapt to any situation. What are you doing? Kethver demanded. I'm turning your weapon against you, Amy replied. Instead of killing all life in the galaxy, it's going to kill only the Vorthic. Your own weapon will destroy your species and leave everyone else alone. The Emperor roared with rage and lunged at Amy, but Ryan Bell's rifle spoke first. The shot took Kethfor in the chest, and the massive alien fell to the ground, dying. You cannot stop it, Kethver gasped with his last breath. The weapon will fire in 3 minutes. You will all die. Amy continued working on the machine, her fingers flying over the controls. She had studied Vorthic technology for months, and she knew exactly what she was doing. The weapon was designed to target specific genetic markers, and she was changing those markers. 2 minutes, Colonel Turner called out. Amy, whatever you're doing, do it fast. Almost got it, Amy replied. The weapon is now programmed to target only Vorthic DNA. It will kill every member of their species in the galaxy, but leave everyone else alone. The machine began to glow brighter, preparing to fire. The human soldiers braced themselves, not knowing if Amy's modifications would work. If she had made a mistake, they would all die along with everything else in the galaxy. The Galaxy Killer fired, sending a wave of energy across the entire galaxy. On every world, in every star system, Vorthic soldiers and civilians felt the weapons. Touch. Their bodies simply stopped functioning, and they died instantly and painlessly. But every other species in the galaxy remained untouched. The humans had turned the Vorthic's ultimate weapon against them, ending their empire forever. It's over, Turner said quietly. The Vorthic Empire is finished. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light. The Vorthic, who had threatened to destroy all life, were extinct. Their empire was gone, their weapons destroyed, their threat ended forever. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of her ship, watching as the human fleet secured the Vorthic home system. In the distance, she could see the first refugee ships arriving, carrying survivors from worlds that had been partially sterilized. Admiral, her communication officer called out, "We're getting a transmission from the Galactic Council. They want to formally thank humanity for saving the galaxy." Kate smiled grimly. "Tell them we didn't do it for thanks. We did it because it was right." 1 year later, Captain Lisa Carter stood on the bridge of the Hughes Harmony, watching over a convoy of refugee ships heading to newly terraformed worlds. The galaxy was healing from the wounds inflicted by the Vorthic, and new civilizations were rising from the ashes of the old. "Captain," her first officer reported, "we're getting a distress signal from the Tau Ceti system. Pirates are attacking a merchant convoy." Lisa smiled. The Vorthic were gone, but there were still threats in the galaxy. There were still innocent people who needed protection, and humanity was ready to provide it. "Set course for Tau Ceti," Lisa ordered. "Maximum speed." The Hughes Harmony and her escort ships jumped into hyperspace, racing toward another crisis. The Deathworlders had brought an end to the Vorthic Empire, but their work was far from over. A galaxy was a dangerous place, and someone had to stand guard over the innocent. Humanity had found its purpose among the stars. They were not conquerors or destroyers. They were protectors, guardians of life in a universe that often seemed determined to extinguish it. They had learned to survive on a world that tried to kill them every day, and now they used that strength to protect those who could not protect themselves. The Deathworlders had indeed brought an end, not to the galaxy, but to those who would destroy it. And in the vast darkness of space, humanity's light burned bright and eternal, a beacon of hope for all who dwelt among the stars.